Hey guys, it's Sarah at Crochet.With.Coffee. I wanted to go over how to fix old blankets. So today I have this one that's sad. I'm going to show you what I use and how I fix blankets like this because I know we have all probably found a beautiful blanket at the thrift store that is uh, has holes in it like this, or even a blanket that was given to you by family members or something and it's worn and it's got fraying and it's coming unraveled. I want to show you how to fix something like this. Now, these are granny squares, and the only place that they are fraying right now are the seams. So it's a pretty easy fix. I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, so I'm going to show you how to go over, or I'm going to show you what I use to fix something like that. So I'm going to find a yarn that is about the same color, which that kind of works. I'm going to show you this too. So when they made this blanket, they used two different colors of yarn. I don't know if you can see it, but this edging is different than the part that they connected with. So I want to, it's very different. So this one is going to be a third orange. So I hope it doesn't matter, but it's close, but it's not going to be exactly. So we're going to use that. Another thing I'm going to use is a felting needle. So this is what it looks like. I got this pack off of Amazon. It comes with one that has a spot for 3 needles. I'm not going to use that one. I'm just going to use the single needle. Be very careful when you use these because it will hurt if it pokes you. So see if you can see the barbs on that. There are barbs on the end there. I don't know if you can see it, but that's what grabs the yarn as it goes through the project. Let me find a good example here. Okay, so you see how, nope, that was the wrong one. All right, here's a good example. See how that is a piece of yarn that is sticking out. It's not enough for me to sew into the fabric using a needle. So what I'm going to do is push this through with this felting needle. What I'm going to use, I'll laugh. This is my attempt at knitting. That's why I don't knit. So I took a piece of a project that I had tried knitting, and I wrapped it up in a ball and I threw it in a drawer. And when I was looking for something to use as like a pillow for felting, I found this. So that is what I use it for now. And the center is really felted. You can see it's all. But, so I put that underneath the project there. You see that's the little thread that we're trying to get rid of. So you're going to just push the needle. See if you can see that. And what it does is it mixes the fibers together. And that's enough for you to not see it, but I could probably pull it off if I tried. But if you just keep going over that same section, it would get it stuck in there really well and pretty permanent for the most part. So that's what I do with the little pieces that are not long enough to sew in. And then I'm going to do a close up for you of how to resew the squares together. So we're going to go over that today, and let's get started. The first thing I do is I lay the blanket out on the floor so that I can see what it is I'm working with and what needs to be repaired. I can already see that there are a few spaces here that need to get fixed. So I'm going to mark those with a stitch marker. Every time I put a blanket on the floor, the animals think that it's the new hangout spot. But I am going in with a stitch marker here so I can mark the spaces that need to be sewn back up. And then I'm going to mark the other spaces that have tails sticking out, but they're not long enough to weave in. So I'm going to show you how to use a felting needle to hide those ends and to secure them so that the blanket won't come unraveled from those loose pieces as well. All right, let's fix this poor little thing. We're going to start in this spot because I have two different things going on here, so I can show you both in this one spot. So this one in the green is the part that has unraveled. So what I'm going to do is unravel it a little bit farther so that I have the ability to use this tail to um, sew in the ends so that this won't come unraveled again. I'm just going to go until I have a long enough tail to be able to weave in ends. A little bit more. And just to give you a closer up view of what it is that I'm doing, I'll show you on this one too. What I'm doing is I'm taking these two parts of the fabric, and you see how this thread, that's the loose thread. What I'm doing is I'm pulling both sides of the square, and you see how that is pulling through there? That tail is pulling through. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking this and pulling it back through to release it from that other side. And again, it's just loosely pulling through there. And that's all that I'm doing to unravel that tail a little bit so I have enough to tie it back into the afghan. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just pulling it apart, and you see how it's opening that space. So when you're unraveling, that's all that you're doing when you have two squares connected to each other like this, where this is just sewn together. All right, and I'm going to take my yarn needle. And I thread that, and I'm just going to sew a little bit between the two pieces here. Just locking it into place with a little bit of a sliding it through that loop that I just made, and just tighten it. Do that 2 or 3 times, and then I'm going to weave my ends in, and I'm going to make 3 passes with this yarn. just weaving in from the side, weaving in my ends to the stitches and all these little things we got going on here, the stitches and the sewing up the two squares. So I'm going to make 3 passes at least. You can make more with the tail, go for it. The more passes, the more secure, but 3 will do the trick. I do that all the time. I haven't seen any of my things unravel even after I wash. And then you can clip that off after those ends are woven in. And work on that one in a second. Okay, so we're going to take our yarn that does not quite match, but it's the closest I could find. So I'm going to take a bit of that, spread that up. I'm going to leave a long tail on the end when I pull it through. So going to start a little bit behind where the split is ended. So I'm going to start like a stitch behind that. Pull that through, leave a nice long tail because we are going to be sewing this end in as well. So I want to make sure that I have enough to do that with. So I'm going to make about 2 or 3 knots here, with just the end of that yarn and I have the one end on the needle and then the other end we just tied knots together with those 2 ends there. And now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to sew up these stitches. I'm just going to go back and forth between these squares, matching up the stitches the best that I can. And I'm trying to go in the loop that is in the back part. So we've got our back loop here and our front loop, and I'm trying to go all in the back loops of both squares to hide the yarn a little bit, as it is not the exact color, so it stands out a little bit. So I'm just going to try to hide it as much as possible. And just check every once in a while and make sure your clusters are lining up. Also, make sure you're not pulling this tight because if it bunches up like that, it won't look right. So just keep it nice and loose there. But you can hold on to where you knotted your yarn on and just pull it that way. That way, it's not going to bunch up the fabric, but will tighten up all these stitches for you so they're nice and flat. All right, and you can see where my new yarn is, but it should be okay, even though it's not a total match. I could not find this yarn. This is a different yarn. I wonder if this is an old red heart or what this might be. Oh, there's another hole. Right. So the way that the rest of these corners looked is they look like they were on purpose, not sewn corner to corner there, like so that the corners were tight together. So I'm going to leave this one like this to do the same thing that they had done when they put it together. So right now I'm just going to go back and forth or loop around a few times and then put my needle through that little loop and just pull it tight. It gives a little bit more security there. I'm going to do that a couple times. And pull that tight. And now I'm going to weave in my ends and again, just do 3 passes. I'm going to try and stay near where I sewed so this color stays in about the same spot. So just make sure you're catching yarn when you're putting your needle through there. You're catching a lot of those stitches and yarn pieces to make sure it's secure. I'll do one more. All right, now you are safe to trim your yarn on that end. And then on this end that I tied in, I'm going to do the same thing and just hide this end, thread that onto my needle, and follow this edge here that has all the new yarn in it. There's 1, 2, and 1 more pass here. Try to catch all the yarn that you can. There's 3. Now you're safe to cut that one. That is all seamed up. You can see it when you're looking close up, but from far away, you should not be able to see that color difference too badly. All right, so now with this one, that is the knot is there. I'm not going to unravel that one, but I'm going to show you how to uh, hide this tail because I cannot clip it here or it would come unraveled. So the thing I'm going to show you is a felting needle. And I just got this little kit on Amazon. It's nothing fancy. But this one, it came with multiple needles there, which is for like larger projects. I'm just going to use this one. It came with extra needles. The way that I found works best is to have, you can use a felting block underneath this. I don't have one of those, so I have a piece of um, something I tried to knit, which I can't knit, and this is how I ended up using it because I wasn't going to unravel it. So I just put this underneath where I'm going to be working so that I have something to put this needle into. So you don't want to hold your hand behind it because you'll poke yourself. You can see that right there. And then you just take this needle that has, if you can see it, it has barbs on the ends there. And what that does is it grabs the yarn from the top and pushes it into the bottom. So I'm going to lay this where I want it, be anywhere where the orange is. I'm just going to start just poking that into those other stitches. Just do it all over. And you could do this on the back side of the blanket too. It doesn't mess up the stitches a whole lot, but you still might want to do it on the back side. All right, so now you can see that this has really started becoming, and I can pull it up a little bit, but you can see how it is starting to take those fibers and push them into the rest there. So you just want to keep doing that. And be careful not to get your finger because that does hurt. And really, what this is doing is it's just causing all those fibers to be intertwined with each other so that they will not come unraveled. So at that point, you can do a little bit more right there. You can see that tiny bit. But for the most part, I think you can see that it really just becomes all together, like one part all together. There's another spot right there. I'm going to do that little end right there. I'm going to do the same thing. And I do think it works better if you don't twist it beforehand. If you just let the fibers loose and frayed, then it will grip the fibers a whole lot better while you're poking it through there. You might have to pry it off of your piece that you have underneath there, but that's what you're going to do with those ends that you cannot get with a needle. And it works really well for, what tails we have available. I'm going to do that with this one. But that's what you're going to do all over your blanket. And that is how you are going to repair a thrifted blanket or an old blanket that you have that started coming unraveled. Just find your piece of yarn that matches is the best you can find and sew up those ends and then use a felting needle for any stray ends that you can't sew up or you can't unravel for enough of a tail to sew. So I hope this helped you today, and I hope you have fun repairing those old pieces that you just love or something that you found that you really want to make pretty again. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.